Welcome. I'm Mrs. Airy. I'm the College and Career Coordinator of College and Career Services here at ETHS. I'm so pleased to be back in person and to have some student and parent faces in the audience. That is particularly helpful for this process as we go through. Hopefully everyone grabbed a card with the ICAP information on it when you came in. And then if you haven't already, if you could scan and sign in, just literally just one question. It's your student ID number so we can get a sense of who is here tonight and provide services to you. So this evening's program is actually one of our longer programs that we have, so brace yourselves. It's a lot of information for freshmen and sophomores regarding the planning that we do, that you've already started in FASH and SASH. We'll talk a little bit about that, and certainly information pertaining to the ICAP. So we have a mission here at ETHS for all students to be prepared for life after high school. But to do so, we want to make sure that all of our families are aware of all of the options that are available to students. Sometimes we think that it is just a 2-year or 4-year college or going to work, but in fact, we value all of the pathways that are available to students. And we look at this through the lens of awareness, access, and success. So you have to be aware of what colleges and employers are looking for in order to have access to them and to be successful in the endeavor that you choose. So this is really important to us for student success. So you're here, the first step is coming to this program and becoming aware of what is necessary for our students to do, to have access to where their goals lie, and then ultimately be successful there. Here's a list of things that I neglected to say at the beginning that this is going to be recorded and posted along with the slides. So if you didn't bring note paper or you're trying to write things down, you will have access to this as well. So within the options here, we like to make sure our families know that your students are exploring all of these opportunities through the curriculum that we offer at ETHS. And we are offering opportunities for students to engage in things like internships as they're preparing for work, as they're exploring their career options, and deciding which one of these options they want to pursue after graduation. So we are supporting students in all of these ways. We also provide programming that identifies these more specifically. So if your family is interested in learning more about apprenticeships, or trade programs, or the military, ETHS College and Career Services provides programs for each one of those things so that your family can be best informed about how to go about having that opportunity and then ultimately being successful. College and career readiness traits. So there are several traits that both colleges and employers have emphasized that they value in their students and employees. So at ETHS, we are working to build curriculum that includes all of these traits so that your students have an opportunity to grow in those ways and then shine when they're out in the world and doing their thing. So it's pretty exciting to try and build curriculum around all of these areas to see students grow. And so as freshmen and sophomores, you're doing this through some coursework. We have some interdisciplinary subjects that your students are enrolled in maybe, or can enroll in throughout their time at ETHS, where they're doing a lot of problem solving and having to work on their communication skills, not only with their teacher, but with their classmates. There's a variety of ways that we are helping students engage with these traits. So important to know that, again, this is both what colleges are looking for and what employers are looking for. So where should you put your attention as a freshman and sophomore? Typically, I would say, there's no particular order for how this goes. But what is most important, really, is course selection. So the courses that you request to take are really important to your plans for after high school. So let's say you're thinking about college. Colleges are first and foremost going to review your transcript, which is the record of all of the courses you've taken and the grades you've earned in those courses, and they're going to see what you chose to take. what level of course you chose to take, so how challenged were you in your coursework, and then they will review for your grades. Okay, so a lot of times families think that the GPA is the most important thing, but in fact, it's where did you earn those grades, so which courses. And if we think about employers, we want to take courses where you have the opportunity to engage in those skills, those traits that were in the previous slide. We want to make sure that you're taking courses in your interest area as well. So if you haven't taken a look at our course requests guide at all, this is the place where you want to go to find out the other interesting things that you can take that maybe you hadn't thought of before. Sorry, I have a pencil. The grades that we're looking at are grades that would be in a consistent or an upward trend. So that means if freshman year you struggle a little bit because you've transitioned to this big high school and a block schedule and different things, and that's challenging for you, or maybe you have something going on with your family or in your social life or your own personal mental health, and your grades suffer a little bit, okay? Colleges will want to see that you have taken that adversity and you've built upon that and increased your success in those courses throughout high school. So while some people will say freshman year doesn't count or doesn't matter, it does, but it's also the opportunity where colleges will sometimes be more flexible with how you've performed based on how you have that upward swing in your performance, okay? So think about that as a positive. Test scores. Has anybody here heard of test optional? Colleges being test optional. Okay, well, employers aren't going to be looking at your SAT scores, but if you do look at going into the military, you will have a assessment for that, which is the ASVAB. So there's a score from there that would determine what sort of career pathway you can follow in the military. But also, there may be some tests that you have to take for different career fields, certification exams. Things that relate to your skills and abilities with reading and math, okay? So being a good tester, or the ability to take a test, is important. Not as important in the college admission process as it once was. So parents who maybe your child will be going to college and this is your first child, you know, this is maybe news to you that many schools have now gone test optional, which means you could choose to send a test score or you don't have to. And then there are some colleges where they're not requiring or even taking test scores anymore. So that's an important thing to note. And these are the kinds of specifics that we'll get into with your counselors as your student ages up into junior year and post-high school planning conferences. Character. We'll put the best kind of character, right? So many of those traits that I had mentioned will be displayed in your classrooms and in your activities. And this is the kind of thing that will come across in an interview, right? So you're going for a job and you have an interview. How are you exhibiting your best character traits? That's really important. And when we're thinking about colleges may be asking for letters of recommendation. So you would have to have your teachers, typically junior year teachers, write you a letter of recommendation about how you are in their classroom. And what they're evaluating you on are those traits that were on the screen. I always like to make sure that families know what they're being evaluated on, okay? What your student is being evaluated on, so that it's not a surprise later that you should have been participating in class, or you should have been showing up and doing your work. Those are the traits that teachers will be looking for. The same traits that employers will be looking for. Are you on time? Are you reliable? All of those things come into play for both of those portions of your life. And so we want to think about, how are you showing up? And there are other activities that we do, and you may have already done through your study halls, your advisory study halls, where we ask you to rate yourself on how you are with the traits and how you could improve or where your strengths lie. And those are important things because we always want you to be thinking about growing. So reflection is really important in this process. The next one is diversity. Diversity of all sorts. Okay, so when we talk about diversity, we're usually talking about racial and ethnic diversity. But in the admission process and in the employment process, we're talking about diversity of all kinds, interests, talents, In college admission, we're talking about where you are from, what you want to major in, all sorts of things that make you stand out and appear different than the other applicants in the pool. And then again, as a future employee, it is what have you done that makes you stand out a little bit. And then the extra stuff. Who's involved in extracurricular activities here at ETHS? Some of you, most of you. This is particularly important, and what's important to note is that activities, just for the sake of doing activities, is not meaningful. So I have my own high school student, she's a junior, and I'm a freshman as well, but the junior is always talking about how her peers are saying, oh, I'm doing it for my college applications, I'm doing it for my resume. But colleges and employers can see through that because it's about what have you done within that activity or what have you gotten from that activity that makes you stand out and makes you appear to be more of like a commodity to them, that they're like, oh, this is a great person to have, okay? So we want to think about that. Leadership is awesome. So even if you can't be the club president or the student government president or something like that, taking on a role within the club, with it, doing an activity where you're leading that is particularly helpful. If you're going to do a college application and you list your activities, it's going to ask you what your role was within that activity. So you should probably have a role other than attended meetings. And I help students craft that section of their application, and oftentimes that's how they start, attended meetings, and then we have to really sort of flush out, like, you know, what were the activities that they participated in and what did they do. But again, just the sake of listing things is not a reason to get involved in something. Another reason we like students to get involved in things is, again, for interest in career exploration. So the more that we can get out there and try things and have to be communicative and team player and all of that, will help you identify where your strengths are, where your challenge areas are, and what you might like to do someday as a major and then a career. So it's all really important. I also want to emphasize that extra stuff doesn't have to be ETHS stuff, okay? It could be stuff that you do with your faith, with a club outside of school. It can be a job you have. It can be things that you're doing around the house to help support your family. There's a lot of different things that students do in their time away from the classroom, and that's what colleges want to know. How are you spending your time outside of the classroom? Okay, so I also didn't mention at the beginning that this is going to be a little interactive, okay? So I counted, we have plenty of students here, but I will take parents as well. I need 9 volunteers. Mr. John, I have never not had 9 volunteers, so don't make this a thing. Just come up here, you just really have to stand here. There's no like questions I'm gonna ask you, or we just need you to come up here and stand. Come on up. Yeah, yes, thank you. Such a leadership opportunity. So Mr. Johnson is gonna, oh, it's on the bottom. Yeah. So they're in order right now. So we're gonna play what is called the GPA game. So at this moment in time, we're gonna be talking a little bit, we're gonna be focusing more on the college aspect of this process, right? So post-high school planning, and this is about the college applicant. So we have, we need, these or these? They get these. Oh, sorry, microphone. Yeah, in order. And then you read the card, yeah. Okay, so what I want to show here is how the things that I've already talked about, so those 6 things to be working on and thinking about right now as relates to college and jobs and careers and things like that, we're going to turn this into a mock admission review, okay? So each one of our volunteers has been given a card that has their application details on it and their GPA, okay? So what we're going to see here is how the parts of the application can override the GPA. All right, so I'm going to read, Mr. Johnson is going to read out different qualities of the applicant, and they're going to move in the line as the value of that criteria is, okay? So whether it's a good thing or a bad thing on an application. And I actually don't mean good or bad, but more valuable, something that's an asset versus something that doesn't help the application process. Where's our top person? Okay, so you're the 4.0? Okay, awesome. So we have, sorry, getting back used to being up here with the microphone. We are in order of GPA right now, so we can see that we have our, we're not in order? Okay, test number 1. They got in order. That's great. Okay, so Mr. Johnson, your microphone, if you want it, is on the podium.
Let's see if I can do this without one.
Okay.
Even though my voice is lost, there won't be no voice tomorrow. But so they're taking. I'm just so I'm clear. Plus 2 step forward. Minus 2 step back.
Yep, to the side.
To the side.
Yeah. So if
Switch positions?
yes, switch positions. So if somebody says, if it says 1 step forward, then you jump over him. You'll be then first. Okay.
Question 1: if you've taken an exceptionally strong academic program, two steps.
Okay, so that speaks to course selection, right? So college is looking at what did a student take that's more valuable than graduation requirements, right? So you have the opportunity to meet all of your graduation requirements, but how you do that and what extra you do is particularly important, okay?
So if you play the oboe, take 1 step.
This speaks to diversity and extra stuff. So this is a student who is involved in something, but something that is not common. So unfortunately, if we have any violin players or flautists, that's what they're called, then that's not necessarily something that makes you stand out. But the oboe, you're in.
Applying early decision, slide 2 spaces.
Okay. So something that I didn't mention earlier is something called demonstrated interest. And many colleges track what is called demonstrated interest. And that is just you indicating that you might favor their school in some way, okay? So that can start, as early as junior year, typically, where you are on websites and you're saying, send me more information, and then they have your email and they start sending you things. Or when you take standardized tests, there's a question, do you want colleges to send you things, information, and then you will get those mailings, both email and physical mail. So by doing that, you're now on their lists of students who may be interested in them, and you'll be recruited to attend that school. Applying early decision is the maximum way of which you can express interest to a college that you want to go there, because early decision is you applying to that school, one school that you really want to go to, and if you get in, you're going to go there. So you have no other choice, okay? So you have decided, and if they pick you, you're in and you're going.
Major in psychology or pre-med, -1. Step to your right.
Okay, so this again speaks to diversity, much like the oboe, something of interest to a college. These are typically their biggest programs. And I didn't even realize that I put major in pre-med. I think I did it so that I could point out to you that pre-med is not a major. This is what kids say. I want to major in psychology, I want to major in pre-med, but what I want you to know is that pre-med is a program of courses that you take to prepare for the medical school examination. You still need a major, okay? But schools, as incoming applicants, have so many pre-med students, it's just, okay. And the same thing with teenagers thinking that psychology will be particularly interesting. It's like, okay, we have a lot of those. I would say biology is also one of those majors because that's what students usually pair with pre-med. Okay.
Major in Greek, +2.
Okay, so we just jumped up there a little bit with the GPA because of this major. Colleges have departments of faculty that they want to keep, and they need students in those areas of study. Greek is a lesser known area of study, therefore when a student is interested in that, it adds diversity to the application and fills a need that they may have at their school, and therefore is an asset in the application process.
Had trouble getting a letter of recommendation, -2, slide 2 to your right.
Okay, so having trouble getting a recommendation, and this would be from your teacher, is typically because you didn't participate in class or didn't show qualities of which the teacher felt confident about writing you a letter of recommendation. So if you had to ask multiple teachers and they didn't really have valuable things to write about, that is not going to be in your favor when it comes to the application process. So again, why we have you here tonight to emphasize these things about relationships with teachers.
You included the wrong college's name in your essay, -4.
So colleges report on this to us all the time. The cutting and pasting of essays and forgetting to change the name of the college is significant. They laugh, you know, whatever. You're not typically disqualified from the process, but it's not helpful in any way, and certainly did not allow that essay to assist you in the application process, which is what it's meant to do, right? So we definitely don't want to do this. Typically, the way to avoid this is to not write a college-specific essay, except if it's a supplemental essay that the college requires. And when I say that, it's going to be confusing for a second. There may be one main essay that you send to all of your colleges, and then some colleges will say, you know, that's not enough. We want you to write one about our school specifically. That's when it's okay, okay? But for the main essay or main personal statement, we want to avoid the college name.
You didn't write the optional essay, -1.
Okay, so unfortunately, in college admissions, optional is typically highly recommended, okay? So we can hash out these things about, like, you know, they say it's optional, then it must be optional. You can ask many colleges and they will say, it's optional. But then we know from talking to them in other venues or, you know, relationships that we have with them, that they certainly say then, the more information we have about you, the more we can learn about you and then make a good judgment on you as an applicant. They feel like they could never have enough information about you. So the optional essay would be important. So typically highly recommended.
Essay topic, what I learned from playing sports, -1.
Okay. So is this a topic you could use for your essay? Yes, but it's all about how you use it, okay? So colleges will get this essay a lot because for many adolescents, this is the most significant thing that they've participated in. Time-wise, commitment, dedication, those are the words that I read in these essays all the time. Hardship, injury and overcoming injury, or not making a team and then making a team because you worked so hard. There are all these things. The colleges have heard this all before. So what they want is something that's different and unique about you, not something that other students may have done as well. And so the more we can think about other topics of interest, then the better the essay can be.
Essay of the year +3.
Okay, so we just witnessed the GPA jump, right, from the end of the line to the middle because of the essay. You have the opportunity to really stand out in the application process by having the essay of the year, okay? This is the essay that the admission office will pass around and tell other people they need to read because it's so captivating of a story, both of a human interest story, but also maybe from the way that it's written. Those are really valuable components. And so we want to make sure that you're putting in the effort to have a strong topic and write a strong essay, have people look at it. I think, though, that this goes along with how we can build all of the pieces together, even if we wanted to think about this from an interview standpoint, right? So if you're applying for a job, how are you going to stand out and be the essay of the year, right? Be able to talk about yourself, be able to show up and show off yourself. So anytime you can really articulate, whether it be verbally or in writing, who you are and what you're about, you're going to stand out.
Got caught plagiarizing a paper, sit down, nothing else matters.
Yep, I think that speaks for itself.
First generation college student +2.
Okay, so if you're the first in your family to go to college, yep. 2, yep. Oh, yes, you're right. Very good. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a diversity factor. This is one of the things that colleges are looking for to diversify their campuses. They want to bring more first-generation students on campus, provide those experiences, and have students share with their peers.
Summer enrichment +2.
Yep, that's as far as you can go. The summer enrichment opportunities are really valuable. I like to emphasize, though, that just because you can pay $6,000 for a summer enrichment program doesn't necessarily mean you're in that college, okay? It's an opportunity for your student to explore major interests, career interests, as well as gain some independence, because oftentimes they're on college campuses and they're staying for a few weeks, or they are with employers and things like that. So that's where the value lies. Being able to use what the student learned in maybe their essay, okay, or their activity section. That's where the value comes from. What are they gaining from this experience? If it's just I want to apply to Brown, so I'm going to do a program at Brown, doesn't get you into Brown unless you can articulate like what you went through and how you've learned from it and how you want to use Brown to meet all of your dreams.
No extracurricular activities -3.
We have no? Oh. Okay, so this speaks to if you are only in class, the expectation is you're going to do well. And if you don't do well in class and you have no extracurricular activities, then you're being judged on your academic achievement. The thought is that you will have little responsibility or less responsibility, and you won't have had those team building experiences, etc. And I want to emphasize this again, extracurricular activities does not mean just ETHS stuff. So anything you're doing outside of the classroom. We have many students who are expected to be home to take care of siblings, to take care of family members, to work, etc. All of those things count. So make sure that when your student is looking ahead to build their resume, which they started freshman year in FASH, that they're including all of those kinds of things they're doing outside the classroom.
Community service project +1.
Okay, so again, leadership, maybe empathy and compassion, it's for the community. There are qualities that are expected to come out of the student who achieves a community service project.
Eagle Scout or Gold Award recipient +2.
I just recently had communicated with a consortium of colleges about this very topic, particularly the Gold Award. And they emphasized how amazingly valuable these two awards are to students in the admission process, because they believe that it really holds the student up amongst their peers because of the dedication that goes into staying in scouting so long, as well as the project that they ultimately did for their community. I got so much positive feedback from that. So that's thus the +2.
Varsity athlete, +2.
So sometimes you might hear people say, oh my God, they got in? And you're looking at your neighbor who is an athlete, but you know is not as good of a student as you are. You have to know that colleges have areas that they need to fulfill. And I already talked about that through the Greek major and the oboe, right? So they want to have an orchestra, they need to have an oboe, you have a chance of getting in. They have a position on a team that needs to be filled, you may have a better shot of getting in. So that's where the varsity athlete piece comes in, is it's not necessarily that your student wasn't good enough from an academic standpoint to get into a school, they just maybe weren't what the college was looking for.
Varsity athlete and took second at regionals, +1.
Okay, so that's just success. Successful student athlete, again, is an asset.
A D in a core course junior year, -3.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the grades and the upward trend. Junior year is not the time to get a D in a core course, okay, if you can help it. And
Introduced yourself to a college rep, +1.
this is the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Explained, I was waiting for your explanation.
Sorry.
Explained your D to the college rep.
Because they went hand in hand. So introduce yourself to the college rep at a college fair. At ETHS, we offer, since COVID, probably only about 200 individual colleges that came to visit us this year. But students are available, or I should say able, to come to meet with the college reps that are in the building as juniors and seniors. So as you go and you sign up and you fill out their information card and you stop and have a conversation, ask them a question, all of that is demonstrated interest. And in this particular case, if you had the opportunity to say, you know, I got a D in X class, here's why, and here's what I've done to improve upon that, etc., then you're in the asset category again.
A legal resident of Idaho, +3.
Diversity. If you haven't had a chance yet to look at college statistics, they like to say they have students from all 50 states, if they can. And so if they're missing a state and they have a student who is from that state that they're missing and maybe a little less qualified, they have a good chance of getting in. So you think right now, well, we're not from Idaho. Well, here's what you want to keep in mind about this particular piece of information. Colleges are often regional. So maybe we're thinking of like the top 12, top 15, 20, whatever colleges that everyone thinks of when they think about college. But know that there are many colleges across the country that are regional, meaning they get most of their students from the area that they're located in. So they're often then looking for students from outside their region, and our students then have a leg up on that admission opportunity. Illinois, I should say, is the second greatest exporter of students to college. And so colleges are always seeking our students, and this could be an opportunity for diversity.
Missed your counselor interview, -1.
No one? Everyone made their interview? That's weird. Okay, well, we can, I don't know how that happened. We can see in the number, if someone had missed their interview, that would not be favorable, mostly because the counselor is also responsible for writing a letter of recommendation to colleges. And without the opportunity to get to know your students, there's less that they can write about that will be favorable for your student.
Your last name is Gates. Gates is the name on the library, and it's not a coincidence. Go to the front of the line.
And there we have it. That is how admissions works. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, volunteers. You can give the cards to Mr. Johnson, and we have our admitted students here at the end whose family bought their way into school. Thank you so much for being brave and coming up and doing that. And thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, so how do we make all this happen for your students? Well, you have in your hands our card that illustrates in the form of a checklist our individualized career and academic plans. And with those cards, I created them to sort of be like something you stick on the refrigerator and you literally start checking off over time, okay? The items that have stars are things that we do here at school. Your student will engage in that in school. And then the things that have check boxes are the things that your family has the opportunity to take part in, but is up to your family. So that's how that works. You'll see there's a lot of freshman, sophomore stuff that is done in school, and then more things that are for your family after school. So I want to give you a little introduction. I have a video about the ICAP and what that is. Students, anyone know or heard of the ICAP? Okay, thank you. We're doing something right. Okay, so I'm going to show you this short video, and then we'll continue on from there.
Today I'd like to talk about utilizing ICAPs to support college and career exploration in the classroom. You may be asking yourself, so what's an ICAP? Individualized Career and Academic Plans, or ICAPs, are a foundational tool that gives students ownership of a planning process that helps them identify their unique talents and aspirations, participate in career and post-high school exploration, and create pathways to be college, career, and life ready. Developing an ICAP is a multi-year process that intentionally guides students and families in the exploration of academic, career, and post-high school opportunities. The ICAP helps students make informed decisions about courses and activities throughout high school that are geared toward individual career pathways to success. With the support of parents, guardians, faculty, and staff, students develop an awareness, knowledge, attitudes, and skills to become confident consumers of their education. ICAPs include activities and tasks that integrate meaningful connections between the experiences our students are having at ETHS to life after high school. The ICAP process is a collaborative effort shared by the student's family, and ETHS faculty and staff. Each stakeholder plays an important role in the development of ICAPs. All ETHS students will develop and maintain their ICAP with direction and support from parents, families, and student personnel. They will develop an understanding of the purpose, process, importance, and use of an ICAP in exploring their learning opportunities and post-high school plans. ETHS families have access to their child's ICAP and can be actively involved in the ICAP process. Active participation allows families to engage in conversations with their children about their choices, learning experiences, and future goals. This will encourage families to have input into their child's education. As active participants in the ICAP process, all ETHS faculty and staff can share the responsibility of facilitating the development and implementation of ICAPs, ensuring that all students have regular opportunities in a variety of settings to set, review, and revise goals. ETHS faculty and staff can use ICAP data to identify additional experiences that can lead students to meeting their post-high school goals. It's important to note that every interaction with students about their interests, goals, and post-high school plans leaves an imprint on them and impacts their future. So don't view this as another task. This is about a mindset and a school community approach to connecting what we are doing with students today to their futures. This is all of us coming together as a community to serve students. It's the Wildcat way.
So that is a really good intro to what we're building here with our students. And I will continue with showing you how you can access that, what you'd be accessing, and the ways that students are developing their ICAPs. So if we want to think about this as a developmental model, we're talking about taking all of your students' experiences in school, in activities, career exploration, academic experiences, all of those things, putting them together in coming out with sort of their ICAP portfolio. In 9th grade, we focus on self-awareness. So this is where that reflection piece comes in. There's some reflection that they'll do in FASH, and sophomore parents, you have access to what your freshman has already done. And as sophomores, you'll continue that reflective piece as it relates to career exploration, which we focus on sophomore year. Then junior year and senior year, we'll do a little bit more with planning and decision making, and that's sort of the plan. I know you can't read this right now, but I just want to show you a visual of how each year builds on to the next, and the things that we do from year to year will ultimately take us out to all of the options that were in the earlier slide. So it doesn't matter where we start, you can have a pathway of your own. The ICAP may include what's listed here, okay? So we could be looking at things like SMART goals. So parents, if you're familiar with SMART goals, students will go in and it actually lays out each letter of what the SMART goal stands for and gives an example of what a SMART goal might be so that it'll help your student identify that. You have access to reviewing your students' goals. So one of the things that's important about that and how I use it, and teachers will use it, etc., is to see if a student says, I want to get a certain grade at the quarter or the semester. It helps us keep kids accountable, right? So if we can all be supportive of the goals that our students set, they're more likely to set those goals or to meet those goals. And then there are personality profiles, interest inventories, all these things that help students figure out and understand where their strengths are and where their challenge areas are and how that may lead to particular careers. I like to use the example of myself who I thought I wanted to be a librarian. And then I worked at the University of Michigan in a library and realized a librarian I am not. I'm a little too chatty to be a librarian. So I took a different route and decided that being a librarian wasn't for me. But having the work experience and being in that workplace and understanding and reflecting on my interests and strengths, challenge areas, allowed me to figure out which career path I wanted to take. So when you first log into your student's account, and I'm going to show you how to do that, you will see a list of to-dos. So this is what comes up for you to see what the student has been assigned to do, what they've completed, what's upcoming, and what might be overdue. And this will include things like initiating their resume, starting that out, or they're also assigned the opportunity to update their resume. There are surveys to take and videos to watch, and all of these things are built into school links. So when we do this, typically as freshmen and sophomores through freshman and sophomore study hall. If you go to the websites or their Google Classrooms for freshman or sophomore study hall, you will see the calendar of activities that your students are taking part in. And then through school links, you'll be able to access the responses, the profile responses, the interest inventory responses, as well as those goals and resume that I mentioned. So how do you do that? Has any parent or guardian in here already logged into school links? Can I see hands? Okay, a couple of you. Okay. So it's pretty easy to navigate to. I tried to put giant arrows on there so you could maybe see a little bit directionally. We just go to the ETHS homepage, and it's under students and families. Go to online tools, school links, click school links, and then this is the page that comes up. Now, a little secret is you could also type in schoollinks.com, and it'll say login at the top right corner, and you'll get this same login page. The interesting part that usually gets families hung up, and then maybe you could help other families with this too once you get to it. If you registered your student and you get ETHS information through a Gmail account, you'll just log in with Google. So you just click in the login with Google and you're in. You already have your account set up with us. And then if you have an email that is not a Gmail, you're just going to type in the email address, click Forgot Password, set a password, and then you're in. Okay? So there's no reason to like have an access code or permission or have an account created for you. You all are already assigned to your students' accounts through your email addresses. So if you need help with that, just reach out to me and I can make sure that you get in and make that happen. We are anticipating sending out the instructions separately to families through email to help with this process. Okay, so what would you find when you go into School Links and I talk about these interest inventories and personality profiles? The very first thing your student did when they logged into School Links was the Find Your Path personality profile. Okay, so this is kind of a fun one because it aligns with celebrities. And so you can kind of compare who your celebrity match is and stuff like that, and see what your student is most like. And this is helpful for teachers and counselors because as they're working with students on classroom, the curriculum and activities and assigning groups and things like that, they are able to review what the student is in terms of their role that they're most, suited for, and that can make for a successful experience in the classroom. So School Links is a career planning tool, okay? And so there are many, many things of which we can use it for to plan for careers. There's a whole section that includes all of these options. We like to look at like a return on your investment, if you want to think about it that way. So when your student is thinking about their major or career area of interest, you can look up the careers and see how much they make, what the average is for that profession. You can look at them by state. So if you're a student like mine is like, I want to move to Washington, D.C. when I'm an adult, and we look at how much she's going to make and how much it's going to cost to live there, she might need to wait a little bit longer to make that happen. So those are the kinds of things that students can really start uncovering and setting goals for life goals. Okay. Why is it not? Oh, it's like, why is it not there? We use something here at ETHS called Career Pathways Programs of Study. And I mentioned earlier the course selection guide or the course request guide. And we also have something called the Programs of Study Guide. And what that is we have taken all of our courses and aligned them with career clusters. So if we wanted to say like information technology, any course that falls into that career cluster would be listed, and all the clubs and activities that are available at ETHS are listed there for that career cluster as well. So the clusters would have been identified in an assessment through School Links, so your student does that in class, and then you'd be able to look at their career cluster and look through the guide and see like what classes a student should take and what things they should participate in to help them with that career opportunity. So it's pretty cool, a guidebook to look at. We spend a lot of time trying to make sure everything is in there and accurate and up to date. So we have the new one for this year. It's up on the website if you want to make sure you take a look at it before requesting your courses next semester. So it's also a college planning tool. So, we did a little college game here. We're going to look at School Links as relates to college planning. And you can see on the screen here that there are a lot of opportunities for you to do research. I know that there are other online databases that students use. The benefit of using this database is that guardians have access to it, as well as your counselors and other counseling staff in the building, like myself and my colleague in College and Career Services, so we can better assist your student when they come in for meetings or have questions, etc. So having that sort of tech relationship is also of value. Another thing that's really valuable about using School Links for your college searches are the scattergrams. So that is the application history and data of ETHS students. So a very important part to this process as you're planning forward and you're thinking about your students' grades and then potentially standardized testing, we want to think about where your student fits as an ETHS graduate, okay, as an applicant from ETHS. Colleges are going to review the ETHS applicants against what we offer at the school and what students take from our school. So they do use some historical knowledge of our applicants, but they also are aware of the classes we offer and that we offer a bajillion activities and things that they expect students to participate in. So we want to make sure that you're using the data from the scattergrams where you'll see they're available on School Links, and I'm showing you a couple places. I just did a search. Northwestern is the first one that comes on the list. Where the little red circle is, it's circling the icon for scattergrams, okay? When you click on that, you're going to get to the scattergram, or if you click on Northwestern or any other college, it'll take you to a page that on the bottom where it gives you the opportunity when you're in the admissions section to then click where the arrow is that says scattergrams. That's going to look like this. I tried to make it as bold as possible for the audience. GPA on the side, test score. On the other part, what I circled there is the average of admitted students. So you can see the line across and down for the GPA and test score, and then the green circles are students who are admitted, and red circles are students who from ETHS who are denied. So it's pretty heavy over the average. You can see that. What's really helpful about that is it will correlate with your student's GPA, right, and your student's account. And if you have your student's test score in there, it will show where your student is on a little circle, and you know where they fall in that average. So that's particularly helpful, again, because when you look at a college's website and it says our middle 50% had this particular GPA or test score, it can be different than what is expected from an ETHS student. This is the application history. And so on here, you just go to the next tab where that arrow is, and you can see the number of applicants from ETHS that were admitted, that were denied, that enrolled, and kind of see what the competition might look like on average for a year. So it's important to note that, you know, for particularly the most highly selective colleges, they don't admit many students, so when a lot of students from the same high school apply, it obviously puts you at a disadvantage that way. And we can look at that. You can study those numbers and figure that out. So you have a counselor. Hopefully you all know who your counselor is. Parents, you're excluded from that, but students, I hope you know who your counselor is. We want to make sure that you know what to expect from your counselor in this process. Okay? So your counselor provides educational planning. So you're going to be doing your course requests and talking about the four-year, for freshmen, you had the four-year course plan that you could discuss with your counselor, and you do that year after year as things change. So that's important to note. But then as we look ahead to this, they're going to give presentations throughout your time here at ETHS. So you're going to have a presentation junior year and senior year all about this process. So sometimes junior year we get a little anxious about like, oh, I want to know this information. Tonight was the first step in that. So you got a lot of information tonight that will help you at the beginning of junior year. But know that your counselor will invite you as parents or guardians and students to a conference where you are talking about your post-high school plans. And you're going to share with them what you're thinking, and they're going to guide you in that process. And if necessary, they will refer you to College and Career Services for additional counseling. Okay? So in College and Career Services, you have myself, and you have Mrs. Vasquez. We are both also licensed counselors who just specialize in post-high school planning, Okay, so we don't do the course request process, and we don't do as much of the, the direct social emotional counseling and academic counseling and things like that. We focus on providing services to you for post-high school planning. And Mr. Shamby is our support person in the space. We do have a classroom where students can come and do work and ask questions and hang out that is adjacent to my office in the hub. So if you're ever in the hub, you can come and check us out. We do have an appointment scanner. It's on the website. It's on flyers around the hub, etc., if you were to desire a meeting with us. So in our services, we provide speakers. Sometimes we do campus or employer tours. We'll take students out. We bring the colleges in to visit with students and all of those things. But we also help students search for colleges, work on applications, review essays, and that would also go in line with job applications and interview prep and stuff like that. So all of the hands-on, we're going to sort of knock this project out. That's something that we will do with your students in college and career services. I didn't mention financial aid. So besides Mrs. Vasquez and Mr. Shamby, we also have services that are not ETHS employees. So we have the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, who helps families understand the financial aid process and how to fill out financial aid documents, get scholarships, all of those pieces. We have the Youth Job Center, who works with us on helping students find employment and career training. And then Oakton Community College is also in our office space to help students understand the programs and career opportunities that exist there within our community. So start now, right? You're here. This is awesome. This is the first step in moving forward with this process, is having this information. So we want to make sure that you're doing the things you need to do in School Links. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Okay, all of that is important. Getting involved. If you're not involved, get involved. If you're involved, maybe get more involved in that particular activity that you have signed up for, and make sure that these things are happening. But what's most important, and it's kind of in the middle there, is steer your own ship. Your family is your family. And while it's helpful to ask neighbors and friends and relatives for what they did, you have to recognize that the grouping of schools that your student might be looking at, or the career path that your student might be choosing, may be different, and the process might be different. Even if you have more than one child, what was the situation for one child may be different for the other. And not only just with the personality of your child, but the process of which we do things at ETHS. So staying in the know, staying in the loop with things that we do here at ETHS is particularly important. So we have some important programming that's coming up. We have the Navigating the Course Request process that will be coming up to help you understand the sequencing and the requesting of courses. And then for students, we have the AP Course Fair. So maybe some of you were also here virtually last night at the AP Forum. The fair will be following up with that in just a short time. The next thing I wanted to share is just how we will be describing and presenting the career pathway options. So we bring in different presenters, have panelists of different careers, mostly employers within the Evanston community, who are looking at setting up students for career exploration and understanding what those things might be that they need to know and do. And so we do have a Career Pathways website, and you're able to access that on the events page. We do record all of our videos, and they are on the ETHS YouTube channel. You can look ahead to March, where we will have our Pathways Fair, and where we bring in, again, career programs, employers, et cetera, who will work with students on trying to get opportunities, but also experiences. Major takeaways. So the things I think I want for you most to know is I mentioned it depends. It depends on the college. It depends on the student. You know, the criteria of which I mentioned earlier. All of those things aren't the same for everybody, and they're not the same for every college. So unfortunately, a lot of times the answer you'll get to a question you ask is, it depends. We need more information, or we need to do some more research and stuff like that together. But it's not easy just to ask a question and have a blanket college answer. So that's got to be a takeaway, is it's going to depend on the situation, on the college, etc. And then I mentioned reflect, reflect, reflect. Use your resources. We're here to help you. That includes your counselor, your fashion sash teachers, us in College and Career Services. I want to make sure that you're using us all to meet your needs, because we can do what you need. And then lastly, it's never too early. Here you are. And I appreciate that. And we can work through a process of which gets you to your goals and meets one of those options that you saw on the list, and do that together. So you can follow us on Facebook. For those of you, usually it's the parents or guardians. I know students aren't on Facebook typically, but what we do on Facebook is we will post events and articles. We will post sometimes announcements of things that are happening or coming up to keep you on track, stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool thing to just be engaged with, as we also celebrate our students that way often. Okay. And then the Scan Me again is our appointment request form. Typically we have students, I typically meet with freshman and sophomore students who are talking about an enrichment program for the summer, an internship opportunity, looking at how we can do that through the summer programs. And I typically meet with sophomores who are doing long-term planning of their academics for college. So that's typically when y'all would come in and meet with me or Mrs. Vasquez. But after that, like I said earlier, we help with applications, interview skills, essays, etc. So we'll hopefully see you down the road after you've had your conference with your counselor. Okay. And at this time, I will take any questions. Does anybody have a question? Oh, in the way back. Yeah, so right now we're working with School Links on being able to differentiate between who has submitted a score and who has not. So right now, they're just fuzzy. They're just gonna be like a tool to use as a springboard to figuring out the fit for the student academically. Yeah, we struggled with that when we got School Links, because it was right at the same time that schools were going test optional. But we're working on that. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate your volunteering earlier and your attention, and hopefully we'll see you when you are ready to make the next move. Have a great night.